Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of Leaders in Next podcast. I'm Gary.
I'm Dan.
And we're going to review what we saw from the offense and special teams in this episode for the spring game. As everyone knows, Blue beat Maize 17-0. Winners a little different this year. They actually went out to a restaurant. They went to Texas de Brazil for steaks. Those of you familiar with that concept, it's one of those things where it's kind of like all you can eat meat and they bring it out to you. One of the players we talked to, though, I think the restaurant made a strategic decision. They limited the team to 1 hour because they might have gone out of business if it was longer than that, because those guys can probably eat a lot of steak and other meat. But game was well attended. You know, I've seen estimates of 40 to 45,000 people. Weather was reasonable, and I think people were excited to see Bryce Underwood and the rest of the team. But I think a lot of people wanted to see Bryce in his first action at Michigan. Before we dive into this, I think look, this is kind of a typical spring game. I think don't read too much into a lot of this stuff in terms of who won and things. I mean, we're going to read a little bit in ourselves, but it's a split squad. The defense is always ahead of the offense in these spring games, it seems like.
For sure.
And look, we have a whole nother fall camp to go where guys are going to improve over their own offseason, then fall camp. I remember the spring game before the national championship year.
Yeah.
I was riding down the elevator with Desmond Howard. And Desmond, we were talking, and Desmond said, boy, we've got a lot of work to do. And here's a guy that won, he's a serious player, and he's looking at it and saying, got a lot of work to do. So, and it worked out okay. So,
I do think in that spring game, I think JJ threw a pick on his first pass. So if you are in the don't overreact to what you see camp, history is on your side.
So, I mean, again, we're going to call out some players. We're going to start with quarterback because everybody wants to know about Bryce Underwood. Look, his stat line wasn't great. He was 12 for 27, 187 yards. If you back out the trick play at the end of the game, he's basically 11 for 26 for 100 yards. He had a TD. He had an interception. I think there was a fumble in there. He had 2 delay-of-game penalties. The reality is, though, we saw everything we need to see from him. He's a playmaker. His short throws, I think he was 0 for 4 on some of the early long throws. He can throw it. But his short throws were money. I mean, the quick crossing, the quick outs, the shallow crosses, they were on the money. He's got a great arm. This guy's going to be a star.
Yeah, great arm. The ball comes out fast. There were some back-to-back throws. I think in the first quarter, just these 2 stick routes to Goodwin, they were on time. They were zipped out there. Not a ton of motion. It's a very concise, just quick turn, and the ball is out. Also like that, I mean, he did force the one bad interception on the route it was intended for Goodwin, and it was ended up getting intercepted. Kind of like a good punt, though, I guess. It was at the end of the half and just pressing. But otherwise, a lot of his throws were, I don't want to call them checkdowns, but they were the smart plays, Had a couple drops, and I know the wind and the weather, wasn't ideal for your first kind of coming out party in the big house. He'll be fine. I actually thought, as spring performances go, we had a good one from Davis Warren last year where he had a couple long touchdowns. But I don't think I've ever been wowed by a spring game performance, like I said, even from JJ. So I thought it was, like you said, everything you needed to see. What I've loved to see, some of the things that were maybe more table stakes get cleaned up a bit more, like the delay of games. Those were a little bit weird. Certainly the pass that got forced to Channing wasn't the best, but all in all, I thought, he's well ahead of where he might still be 17.
I think he is still 17. Yeah.
Right on track, even as highly as recruited as he is. So I think we're in good hands.
Yeah, certainly the future's bright, and then I think the question becomes, when does that future arrive? And touch a little bit on this. I mean, Jadyn Davis. I mean, one of the, I guess, blessing in disguise, perhaps, of Mikey Keene being hurt and Davis Warren being hurt is that Underwood and Jadyn Davis got all the snaps. So Jadyn was on the quarterback. And on the other side, he had a good spring by all accounts. He had some good moments in the game, but he threw 2 interceptions. His stat line wasn't great. I think, clearly between the two, Bryce looked sharper and looked like much better, throwing motion, and I know you were picking up on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, he did have the nice throw to McCauley. I think that he had drawn an offside. It was a free play. Even that one was a little bit up for grabs. I do think he's better on the run. They had him in some things where he was sprinting out and hit some short passes. I just, it's tough to contrast to Bryce. I mean, he'll always get that comparison, but I just don't really understand what the. I'd love to know what the discussion is around the mechanics. I mean, people have seen those from some of the practice film.
Right.
It's a really long release. The ball comes low. I did think he sailed some throws. He had Morgan, wide open in the middle of the field on one of the early third downs in the game. Although maybe similar success rate on the deep ball to Bryce, but there's just a lot of throws that just weren't there, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that windup is something that they're still coaching on, or he needs it to get spin on the ball. I'm not trying to, bash him. It's just, it's not an unfair thing to say you watch a lot of football, you see the throwing motion, you're like, this looks different. And obviously had the pick to the boundary that it did take a while to get out. I'm just curious to know what the discussion is around it. I wish he was further ahead because I think I would feel better.
Well, he's still technically he's a redshirt freshman. Didn't burn his red shirt last year, so he's got time to continue to develop. But clearly between the two quarterbacks, Bryce looked better. Yeah. And we have some question marks, right? We have two guys with experience that are hurt. I'll start with Mikey Keene, who we had on a podcast episode earlier. I mean, he's been one of the most prolific quarterbacks in all of college. I mean, he's thrown for over 8,000 yards in his career. Last year, he had the third highest adjusted completion rate in football behind Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. He's won a lot of football games. He's played in a lot of different environments, which I think could come in handy early in the year, especially when we traveled to play Oklahoma. He was a team captain, so he's a leader. And by the way, he's familiar with Chip Lindsey. So him being hurt in the spring probably isn't that bad as long as he recovers, right? Because he knows Chip Lindsey's offense, and Chip is our new offensive coordinator. So, I know right now people are saying, well, Bryce is the starter, and that's, I guess, the betting odds would be that, but I wouldn't discount Mikey Keene. And then Davis Warren, who we both really like, and I think had some good moments last year, led the team to win some critical games. Obviously, he got hurt in the bowl game. Not sure what his recovery timeline is. He was walking on the sidelines for the spring game. You like Dave? I mean, it's hard. It's like picking between your kids, I guess. Not that I don't love all the people that suit up in maize and blue. I would feel most comfortable if Keene. My understanding is Keene is throwing. Yeah. I think you're right. Not having him for the spring. It's strong to call it a blessing in disguise. He probably doesn't need the spring. He's been in this offense by his admission to us. I know the terminology. I've seen this before. He's thrown 8,000 yards. So it's actually nice. I'm really glad about the format of the game where it was Underwood and Davis the whole game. The whole game. Not that I'm sure there are walk-on guys that we've seen in prior years, but it was good just to maximize the reps for those two guys. I would feel more comfortable though now with Underwood and Davis Warren than I would Underwood and Jadyn Davis. I think if Davis Warren is the quarterback of the Mays team to score something like 17-14 or something like that. So I just feel comfortable. Davis, at the end of the year, obviously he beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, played most of the game against Alabama. He's just seen a lot of football and I think has a good arm, and I would feel more comfortable with that. Again, I am not a Jadyn Davis basher. I'm just you have to it's just what I see. It's just what I see. Keenan Davis, Warren, a lot more experience and there's a comfort level there.
It's a lot. We don't know a ton about Davis's injury, but he blew out his ACL on January 1st, and so that's really only 9 months, a little less than 9 months to fully recover from that. So, hope he makes it. I would feel better with that, with Davis ready to go for the start of the season.
So, Keene's healthy. Jadyn Davis stays healthy, and Bryce is healthy. We've got at least three, and then Davis Warren. But quarterback room.
By the way, with Keene as the third highest adjusted completion rating last year behind Shadur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, do you think the Browns will draft him next year? to complete the trifecta.
I'm gonna decline to answer. The Browns are in Ohio. We don't talk about Ohio teams.
Fair enough.
Running back. This has got to be one of the strongest rooms on the roster, despite losing Mullins and Donovan. We lost
in a couple portals,
and we lost those two, the pros. We lost Tabby Dunlap, Cole Cabana, and Ben Hall. We gained 3 transfers, so it's kind of like this, this moving, targets here. We've got brought in Justice Haynes. By the way, shout out to the spring announcer for continually calling him Justice Hayes, a former Wolverine. He might want to learn how to pronounce the name. There is an N in it at the end.
That was tough because that wasn't the. I mean, that's our normal PA guy. I forget his name now.
You'd think someone would tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, it's Haynes." Anyway, we got Hester and Volker, some new additions to the room. We got 2 incoming freshmen, Parker and Donovan Johnson, and then former walk-on Bryce Kudzal, who had a great spring game,
and Mikey Keene.
Yeah. And so now our best teams have utilized the 2 running back sets. So I think we're going to have what sounds like a law firm, Marshall and Haynes. Jordan Marshall, last year as a true freshman, he broke out in a big way in the Relia Quest Bowl game, earning game MVP honors. 23 carries, 100 yards, all of them tough yards. And, Mr. Ohio football, Jordan is a extremely talented guy. And then this year we pick up the transfer Justice Haynes, former 5-star recruit, 2023, number 3 overall player in that class. Number 2 running back in that class was transferred in, and he's he had a nice big run in the spring game. He busted one outside, kind of faked out Edmond, got 15, 20 yards, so kind of a home run hitter. Both guys, Marshall had some good track times in high school. We are in great hands with at least those 2, and then to your point, Micah Cabana and others. So I'm excited. This running back room, I know we lost a lot. Mullings and Edwards were a great duo, but I think we're not going to see a big drop-off.
Even some of the great teams have used a lot of 3 running backs. I think about the national championship year we had Corum, Edwards, and Mullings. So, I feel like all 3 of them are going to get a lot of run. Obviously, Kudzal, one of the surprises of the spring game. Is he on scholarship now?
He is.
He is. In all honesty, I thought Kudzal looked great. Fast, strong, good. Good change of direction. It'd be interesting to see if they try to get Kudzal on the field too. But as much as we run, I know Lindsey probably balances our offense out a bit more than it was. I hope a bit more than last year. I'm with you. And from Justice Haynes, we didn't see as much of Marshall. Marshall doesn't have a ton to prove. I think we probably got the preview we needed from the bowl game. But for Haynes, we've seen Alabama highlights. We talked about the big run where he sort of bounces outside. Edmond maybe doesn't take the best angle, but he has a great run, shows the speed. A few plays before that, I think on their second or third drive of the blue team, bowled over somebody. So for both of those guys to have, normally when you have 2, you have like a thunder and lightning. Like there are some roles. Like I think, in this case, I feel like they're both kind of thunder and lightning in their own way.
I was going to say,
Capana maybe a bit more lightning than thunder, but I do think, I thought Capana looked great too.
Yeah, it's a good point on. It's not like Marshall and Haynes are one-dimensional. The guys are fast and hard running. Haynes had some incredible stats in terms of yards after contact when he played in the SEC. So
correct.
And he also had a lot of yards, a lot of long runs. So and we see the same in Jordan. So running back room, no real concerns.
No, in the spring game, we'll talk about the line. I thought the line blocked well for both teams in the run game.
On the run game,
it is nice that they're both multi-dimensional because when they're not, I think then when you have a short yardage guy and a non-short yardage guy, it gets predictable. Like one guy comes in for first and second, and one guy comes in for third. I think both of these guys could be short yardage guys. I think that hopefully that's just something else that helps Lindsey keep the playbook nice and open.
Yeah.
Receiver.
Well, man, it's a large room.
And nothing like you got guys like O'Leary that I guess were in Morgan that were here, but it's different. It's different. Bigger.
Well, it's certainly more experience and it's a different complexion. Like I think there's 16 or 17 guys listed. It's hard to tell sometimes because not everybody was in the spring roster. We got some incoming guys that aren't enrolled yet, but like half the guys weren't even on campus last spring in the wide receiver room. So we went out that the staff wanted taller wide receivers, and we got those. We've landed 2 6'5" guys. McCulley transfer in from IU. People are familiar around the Big Ten. You're familiar with him. He did catch a nice pass to your point earlier.
Yep.
We wanted guys that could high point the ball and catch it. There's one. And then Jamar Browder is also a big dude. So they've augmented the room with some size. I think the spring game, hard to tell some of the receivers, but I think in my mind the projected starters are probably McCulley, Fred Moore, and Samaj Morgan.
Yeah, and I think maybe a two deep behind them of Marsh, Channing Goodwin, who we'll talk about in a second, and probably Peyton.
Right.
The one person who was absent from the spring game, I think he was on the sideline in a jacket, was Kendrick Bell.
Yeah.
Unclear. Seems like some sort of thing he's working through, to use Harbaugh's term. I mean, he started a lot last year. I could see him. So this all assumes that Bell's continues to be sidelined. I thought the star of the game, probably from a stats perspective, I thought Goodwin showed a bit, and
Goodwin appeared to be a favorite target.
Ran some nice crisp routes. Kind of gives me some Roy Roundtree vibes. Just seems to find a way to get open.
That would be good.
Stick in spots where he can get the ball. The one I'm most excited about long term, had maybe a catch or two in the spring game. Missed on a couple deep balls. It is Marsh. I think at the end of the day, probably of all this team, of all these guys, Marsh probably ends up with the highest ceiling. Not just because he wears number 4, but he does remind me of Nico Collins, like the build, the speed, just the athleticism.
Yeah.
So I would say most excited about Marsh leaving, but feel like if any of these guys maybe crack their way and are a surprise in terms of playing time in the season, I think it might be Goodwin.
Look, I get like
in the slot.
In the press, people say we need better wide receivers. The fans, we got to go to the portal. I think this room is to my point earlier. They've changed, got a lot of new people in there, and I think it's a more talented group that many might be given credit for it. So I'm looking forward to how that unfolds throughout the year.
I think the wide receiver too is obviously someone's got to throw him the ball and someone's got to block for the person throwing the ball. Right. I think. Well, we'll talk about line. We'll talk about the line.
Yeah.
Because I think some of this starts with pass protection. So.
Well, speaking of catching the ball, tight ends.
Yeah.
So obviously.
Well, this was a surprise, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a couple surprises here. One is, first of all, how do you replace the top tight end in the draft, Colston Loveland? But like the running back room, despite the loss of Loveland, there's a lot of talent here. I mean, I think the starters. Based on last year, a lot of these starters didn't get a lot of run in the spring game. They don't need to. But I think Marlon Klein. If I had to pencil people in now at tight end, I'd say it's Marlon Klein, and then at H-back, it's obviously Max Bredesen. The next man up on the tight end spot could Hansen is likely. I mean, quietly, he had the third most receiving yards from a freshman tight end in the last 12 years. Trailing only Jake Butt and Colston Loveland.
I saw that. And a lot of those 12 years were Harbaugh teams, which makes it even more impressive given how much he uses the tight ends. A sneaky little record for Hogan Hansen. By the way, he was hurt, I believe. He did not play in the spring game.
Yeah. No. And
they're just working through something.
There's a lot of highly rated guys in the tight end room. But if I'm thinking about kind of I think it looks like Marlon and Hansen, and there's some young, again, talented guys that haven't played much yet that could break through. I mean, so, and then at H-back, and frankly, he's probably more than an H-back.
Yeah.
Which, like the MVP of the spring game and a guy we just had on the podcast, Jalen Hoffman. I mean, who the hell knew about Jalen Hoffman before this game other than the staff and the players who said this guy has been great, right?
Right,
I mean, as fans, we didn't know it. Former walk-on. No, former walk-on.
Yeah, you're right.
He had
walk-on.
He had an offer and a scholarship offer, but then turned it down when he got the preferred walk-on offer to Michigan, and then was put on scholarship. I mean, this guy was money in the spring game.
Yeah.
I mean, had you heard of him, this guy, before?
I mean,
heard of him, but
yeah,
I mean,
heard of him. Because I had heard of him, but more as Max's protege. So I thought H-back and mostly blocking. But the role we saw in the spring game was totally different. It was 7 catches. He was split out a lot, kind of a Bryce's security blanket. Ran some nice routes, tough catches. We obviously talked to him a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, what I would have said, I know you brought up Hansen, I would have said, like, and I know we play a lot of 2 tight end sets. We effectively have 2 starting tight ends.
Right.
Other than Klein, I can't imagine if Hoffman's performance is anything like what they've seen in the spring, it's going to be hard to keep this dude off the field.
I mean,
he played awesome.
Well, talking to him, too, he sounds a lot like Max. I mean, this guy is he's all about Michigan. He is team over me. And I know in today's world it's easy to get cynical about people, about NIL and the transfer portal and people in it for money. And, I mean, I don't want to paraphrase, but go listen to what that kid had to say about Michigan and his dedication. He's a team-first guy. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being, in a couple of years, he could be a team captain. I mean, think about if he really is Max's protege, and I know they're different players, right? I think he's actually bigger than Max. And so Max starts as a preferred walk-on, then he goes on a scholarship, and he then gets elevated to team captain. I mean, Hoffman has many of the similarities, not only from a path standpoint, but from an attitude standpoint, that I think resonates really well in the locker room. So it was exciting to see that happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sometimes when you say culture guy, like it can almost be pejorative, like it's in place of like talent.
Right.
I think Hoffman seems like he's got all the talent in the world. Like I said, he was out there running routes from split out wide. Like he made a couple of tough catches over the middle and had some good chemistry with Bryce going on. And obviously the play at the end, he goes 90 yards or whatever for a touchdown. The only disappointing thing I would say, if we've got Klein and Hansen and Hoffman in the top 3, is just it was kind of a one. Klein didn't play a ton, and Hansen was out.
Right.
It was kind of a one-man tight end show. We really only heard from Hoffman, and so just wish we could have seen more. I think Tonelli and Marshall and Prescorn were all on the Mays team. Just did not see really much at all action from that group. So I wish we could have seen more. We saw more from Marshall last year in the spring game.
Yeah, and I think
just hoping that we could have seen more action there.
Yeah, Zach plays a ton. He's in his special teams as well, but he's made some big blocks over the years. Certainly last year.
I know. I guess just wish we would have seen more from Tonelli.
To your point, we didn't really. Prescorn was one of the highest rated guys coming out of high school as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the younger guys end up maturing. But that tight end room is in pretty good shape.
And blocked well. And we saw a lot of the same sets we would have seen last year, a lot of 2 tight end, I think even a couple 3 tight end formations. So it's good to know Chip, my guess is will balance out the offense more, but the bread and butter, I think, will stay the bread and butter, which is the run game. And speaking of blocking, we got to get to the last offensive position group, O-line. And I think if you're looking at something to be critical of out in the spring game, it's probably here. That doesn't tell the whole story. Some pluses and some minuses for sure, but O-line feels like it's got one of the biggest, I would say, question marks going into next year.
Yeah, I think it is the concern on offense right now, in my opinion. There's a ton of talent though, but not a ton of experience overall. Roughly, as I look at the roster now, between the incoming guys and then we've still got Hatter coming in from Ferris State, but hasn't enrolled yet. At least it wasn't at the spring game. But I think there's 18 offensive linemen in total. There are only 3 in their final year, so we don't have a lot of guys that are experienced.
And one of those is Hatter.
And one of those guys is Hatter. So it's like, okay, that we have 9 true freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So half the offensive linemen are that young. So a lot of highly recruited guys. I mean, great guys, but just not a lot of experience. So, after the spring game, Coach Moore said thinks there's 3 starters of the 5 down line offensive linemen. El Hadi, he's in his final year and has a ton of experience. Crippen at center, who's in his final year, has a ton of experience. And then Sprague, who's a former top 100 recruit, I believe. He started. He didn't even burn his red shirt last year, but he did start in the bowl game.
Right.
And fared well.
Yeah.
Fared well. So he's penciled it kind of right now 3 guys. Again, it's early. Fall camp could change all this. So we need 2 other guys. And it looks like I'm thinking the other guard, it's Nathan Afobe. And then tackle is, and this is where I think, your concern is, who's going to cover the blind side? We got, right now, it sounds like it might be Link ahead of Brady Norton, who transferred in from Cal Poly and is making a big step up in competition level. Younger guy as well. And then you got Andrew Bababola, true freshman, like I think the second highest recruit in our recruiting class behind Bryce. Unbelievable talent, but again, a true freshman. Not unheard of that they play, but I think Link's experience probably trumps that. And then, you got other guys like Frazier. Frazier is, a lot of potential, but he's been fought some injuries. He didn't dress for the spring game, I don't believe. So, but again, we've got a lot of guys in that room, but a lot of young guys.
Yeah, no, you called it out. It's left tackle to me that I do wish we're further along. Part of it's because you've got this, you've got these, whether it's Keene or Underwood, because I don't think Warren will be back in terms of the start of the season. Maybe he's not. But whether you have a really experienced quarterback or really new quarterback, like the left tackle is just it's an obvious thing to say, but such a critical piece to have, especially when you start the year like on a road game in Norman, Oklahoma. And I wish we were further along. I think like what I saw from the line this year, talented younger guys, it does feel like the run blocking game is ahead of where the pass blocking game is. Like first play of the game, I think Bababola gets spun around by Nichols. That's going to happen, right? That like our defense.
Nichols is solid.
Nichols is a good player. Defense is ahead of the offense, but there really is no one right now you can probably plug in. If it's going to be Link, I think that's probably what it is. Like you said, experience is still experience. And I think he took big strides throughout the year to continue to improve. But I think his strength was in run blocking too. So I just want to make sure, like, it does feel, if I had to pick a question mark coming into the spring game and then coming out of the spring game, I don't feel like there were any more answers than when we went in. Now, to your point, Norton played, Bababola played, Link played.
Yep.
It's not like there's nobody for sure, like a lot of talent. It's just hasn't really proven. The surprise to me, actually, kind of watching the game back, was Ben Roebuck, and he's 73. And I remember this was the first play. Ben gets kind of spun around by Rayshon Benny. Again, no shame in that. But then saw a lot of good stuff from Roebuck, particularly when he was pulling and when they were running, and he had Haynes kind of running behind him. But I was actually really impressed with Roebuck. Now he's going to be more of a guard, and I think Afobe is probably further ahead, for at least from what I've heard, filling that second guard spot. But I would say I feel better about that going in than coming out. But yeah, just left tackle.
I wish we had just more guys with a lot of game experience. I think this room is overall offensive line. Look at the offense again, just summarizing. I think wide receiver, there's plenty of talent and there's plenty of depth. Tight end, same thing. Running back, strongest room. Quarterback, potential and experience. So I feel good about it. I think the year goes as if this line can gel and some of these young guys get to be old guys from an experience standpoint real quickly, we'll be fine.
And this is different from past years, because I think in past years we kind of filled the holes with, there was a core group of guys, right, that all kind of came in together, and it was Barnhart, Zinter, Keegan, and then they kind of filled the other two with starters for their first year. But then they go out and get Olu.
Yep. They
go out and get Nugent. They get
we got some like all world offensive linemen coming in, transferring with a lot of experience.
Exactly.
And
like
this year we didn't. Hatter has a lot of experience,
right?
But he's at Ferris State. He'll step up in competition, and hopefully, when he arrives, he'll be someone that plays a critical role. But,
right. I'm just saying, prior years it was the performance potential scale was like, well, they were all guys who were all conference. And that's That's hard to do. So I'm not
Right.
saying we can just get the best center in the nation every year that we are here.
Sure.
But the composition is much different. Link was the easiest target last year. I know he legitimately did struggle in pass protection. There was a reason he was out there, like especially for Moore being an offensive lineman and there was a reason for that. The biggest hope is he was a good run blocker. He'll get better there, and he's learned, and he'll get. I mean,
he's young, and
he's young. Yeah,
these guys make a big jump, when they're young. So
and maybe maybe they'll end up flipping him. I have no idea. We'll find out.
We're going to find out, but it is Let's finish real quickly with special teams.
Well, I was going to say MVP is
MVP.
Well, I was just going to MVP of the offense. We'll give some awards out.
Wow. Non-monetary. Right?
This one's easy. Yeah. This one's easy because it's Jalen Hoffman.
Love that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he could also be MVP and biggest surprise.
Yep.
But I wanted to pick a biggest surprise too. I guess nothing surprised me a ton. So I'm trying to think here. If it's not Hoffman.
Well, on offense?
Yeah.
Kudzal?
Oh, Kudzal. Yeah.
Kudzal, again, spring game is always filled with surprises because guys get to play that don't get to play a lot. He hasn't, former walk-on, hasn't played a lot, but he racked up over 100 yards.
He did, and it wasn't just one big run.
No,
right?
That guy was balling out. I mean,
I know.
I was actually surprised that they went to the portal and got two more. After I saw that, that subsequent to that, they ended up getting, Hester and Volker in the portal.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, we lost 3 guys to the portal. We lost 2 guys to the NFL. So, the numbers, it ends up being the same total number when you plug and play the incoming freshmen. So it made sense just from a depth standpoint, but Kudzal was a surprise.
And an ulterior, another option to biggest surprise, also running back. Maybe not a surprise because people had heard of him, but I thought Capana did well. And I think when I thought of Capana before, I thought, he's going to be a pass-catching sort of scatterback type position, but they played him on all downs. I thought he did well. So
love that. Yeah,
good to have a third option. Yeah. Now on special teams, there wasn't a ton of action because we had our kicker.
There's no truth to the rumor that Dominic Zvada was held out for disciplinary reasons.
Correct.
No, I'm kidding. He did. Obviously, we don't need to see Dominic.
We started
Zvada.
That rumor.
He should have won. He should have won the kicker award last year.
The Groza.
That was insane. Guy's money. I think he only missed one. It was blocked. Right. And I think he made the most over 50 yards. Somebody could fact check all that, but that guy is money. Glad he returned. He probably could have been drafted. He's a preseason All-American, I believe. So
awesome.
Field goal wise, we're in great shape. Kickoffs.
He's also stepping up he's pretty got some good social media stuff going on.
Yeah, Dominic is
a
out
lot of good
there.
edits. Yeah.
Saw him with his future long snapper. It looks like Greg Tarr, but so field goals fine. Kickoffs.
Who was kicking those field goals?
Well, it was the guy that is in the portal.
Yeah.
It's Anderson, right? Stuart Blake.
Stuart Blake.
Yeah, Stuart Blake. There's Stone Anderson. That was different. That's a punter, but Stuart Blake. He was 1 for 3. He was in the portal. Played in the spring game. Probably was a tryout for his future team because he's still in the portal.
A little multitasking, so he's portaling and playing at the same time.
There's some talent there. So on
Blake.
Kickoffs, Zvada didn't handle those last year. He has been practicing those, and then we transferred in. We got to transfer in this guy Beckham Sunderland. Hasn't played a lot of football, but he is also supposedly a kickoff specialist. So I think we got 2 guys trying that.
Beckham Sunderland. Love that name.
Yeah, it sounds like he ought to be.
Sounds like a guy who collects marbles or something.
Yeah, good name, though.
Maybe stamps.
Long snapper, shout out to Will Wagner. Went undrafted free agent into the NFL. Guy was, it's a thankless task because the only time you ever wonder who the long snapper is when they make a bad snap.
Who took Wagner?
The Bengals, I believe.
Huh. Sweet.
Maybe there's an Ohio team that wants to learn how to beat, other
maybe.
teams outside of Ohio.
He's the secret.
Yeah. So Greg Tarr been around a lot. He played in the spring game. He's doing social media things with Dominic Zvada. So put 2 and 2 together. Sounds like he's the guy for long snapping.
I like that.
We did get a lot
of chemistry.
We did get a transfer in that is a long snapper and one of the higher rated long snappers from the Colts kicking guys, and that's Trent Middleton. Don't know anything about him, but it looks like Greg Tarr will take over for Will Wagner. And then at punter. Hudson Hollenbeck. We lost Doman to the portal. He decided to go to Florida. I don't know if he wanted better weather, but he might have also wanted lower state income tax on the NAL.
Yeah, he ran the math. Also, his hair was getting a little long. It felt like he was getting a little too Florida anyway. So
okay, so we kicked him. So he's gone.
Yeah.
But Hudson Hollaback was on the roster. He did fairly well in the bowl game. Did fine in the spring game. It's clear that, well, first of all, we need some depth and some competition. So the staff went out. We got the portal. We got this guy, Luke Bauer, was the starter at Missouri. Candidly, his stats aren't that much better than – I don't think they are better than Hudson's. I think he had almost the exact same average in terms of average punt. And he was 95th in punting average in NCAA. So – punter right now is up for grabs. I don't think Hudson did anything to lose the job. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there. And we've got some depth. The other depth piece apparently is Marlon Klein, one of our former guests on the podcast. Apparently he's an emergency kicker. We have no reports.
Look, when in doubt, go get the European kid to punt. That's what I think. Also, maybe Luke Bauer, maybe not getting the top punter in the portal is a little bit of some strategy. Like if you're too good at punting, do you get less aggressive on fourth down? I think Moore wants to keep the edge.
I see where you're headed with this.
See?
You
got
just gonna. Who's that guy in the NFL that never punted? Or like the college, there was some guy like just
maybe high school, the guy who never punted. Yeah.
Dan Campbell's pretty aggressive.
See, if your punting's too good, your expected value calculation tips you to punt more. I think this is all seriousness. Hollenbach's a lefty, right?
You don't like the spin?
No, I like.
You like it for?
I like it for punting. I think Hollenbach.
I'm not sure there's any stats that back that up, by the way, but we're going to go with it.
I don't like it for quarterbacks as the ball spins the other way. I think they drop more. But for the same reason, same physics, I like a lefty punter. So.
And then returners. I mean, they always have a bunch of different guys. It seems like they were trying out for that. Samaj is probably the, Samaj, Morgan. These are punt returners. I wonder if Jordan Marshall's going to return kickoffs now that he's a starter.
Hell no.
I wouldn't want that, but
no way.
We've got Samaj, we've got Marsh, Simpson did some punt returning, so I believe. So kicking game again, Dominic Zvada, guy's a stud. We're in good hands in terms of field goal. And that's a wrap on offense.
Yeah, I mean, we hit on all the main points. We didn't chart every play, but I think we got the big ones. Yeah, it was fun. It was
offense
good.
is always tough. Offense is tough in spring game. The defense is just, and we went to an event after the spring game where the coaches at Schembechler and the coaches gave a preview. I'm pretty sure Chip Lindsey didn't run a lot. This was a kind of a plain vanilla offensive game.
And though we didn't talk about the trick play. Yeah, the double reverse last second touchdown.
Right.
You can consume all you want on that play in our episode with Jalen Hoffman. He breaks down the play. You'll get the name of the play. And some other behind-the-scenes stuff. So check out the Jalen Hoffman episode if you're dying to know more about the double reverse pass. But, we covered it. We picked it kind of the one or two areas that we would love to see more. But it was good to see Bryce out there, good to see the running backs. And, it was a good time. By the way, weather. You touched on weather. I would give the weather a solid 4 out of 10. I graded on a spring game curve where the weather seems to always suck. I thought this one was going to be a little better, though.
Yeah.
But look.
It was nice being up in the Jack Roth
There
suite.
you go. A little bit of a status brag.
Indoors and the food was better than sitting out in the stands. But we did go outside in those seats. A lot of fun. Again, don't read too much into it, but there is enough talent here to beat our rivals next year.
Go Blue.
Thank you.